Well, welcome back to another episode of the world infamous a podcast that is Life After Work. We're normally four of us who are in our 50s and are all finished our primary professions, get together and chat about stuff that's going on in the world. We're one piper down today. Phil Harrison is off on another jolly. He always seems to be away, that lad. But today I am joined by the writer, the author, the poet from Skiathos in Greece, Mr. Paul Davies. Good afternoon, Paul. How are you?
Good afternoon, comrades. Topical.
Oh, I like that. And also by Ash Sharma, the one-time dentist, in fact, dentist to the stars of Altrincham, and a number of them. And now a man of leisure and doing lots of other things. Good afternoon, Ash. How are you?
Afternoon, gents. How are we all?
Marvelous.
Well, I mean, normally we like to pick a different topic every week, and normally it's just something that we've researched and we've talked about and done hours of work before we even come on screen. But today we're going to come back to the topic that seems relevant, which is the war in Ukraine. And I think this is about week 2 of it, guys. And I guess we were just talking on air about our offer, about our thoughts on it and where this is going, because it feels to me like almost the outcome is going to be that Ukraine is going to be flattened, and anybody who wants to leave will leave and disperse to Europe. But it's almost like Putin wants a barren land between himself and the West, and maybe to teach some people a lesson. I can't see a very obvious outcome other than some major destruction of that country, or somebody decides that Putin himself is the issue and he's targeted. It's gone very quickly, very dark, if you know what I mean.
It has gone, and yeah, like you say, we've discussed off air, and we normally have a variety of topics that we can discuss on these podcasts. But there's no getting away really from what's still going on in the Ukraine and Russia, which is obviously why we've come back to it, because like you say, it's where now does all this end? Like you said, there's not a great deal of options where it can end. I don't think that I hope I'm totally off base with this, but I don't think it will end with peaceful means. I don't think Putin's a man who wants peace. I think Putin's a man who wants the Ukraine come hell or high water. And like you say, it's either, I think the sanctions that they put on Russia are great. They will hurt them financially, but that will take time. I don't think Putin's a man who wants to wait for longevity to acquire the Ukraine. Again, I suspect that the oligarchs who have been making a fair old purse over the last many years in the likes of the UK, the likes of the Swiss bank accounts, the likes in Turkey, where they're making billions of dollars. They're going to start feeling the squeeze, and I think they are going to make a choice. Do we want to keep our billions, or do we support Putin? So again, I'm not an expert. I don't work for any secret service or government agency, but I do think that somebody out there, whether it's CIA, MI6, Ukrainian secret service, do you know what? Even members of his own Moscow Kremlin secret service have reserved a bullet with Putin's name on it, because I think he's going to push Russia down into an economic crisis. The oligarchs are going to be completely aboard with him. And other than pressing a button to end it quickly for him, I can't see any other way, because NATO countries can't intervene. And it must be terribly frustrating for the Ukrainians that they see all these friendly allied powers around them, like the UK, like France, like America, who can't intervene and help. Yes, they can sell them weapons. Notice the word sell there. They're not giving them away for free, so as much as we say, oh, this is a terrible thing, we're still making money on the back of selling them weapons. But we can't help them fight Russia in as much as the no-flight zones. We can't impose anything like that because Ukraine aren't a NATO country as yet. Gentlemen, it's very difficult. It's going to be interesting to see what happens over the next couple of weeks to see if and how it can resolve itself.
Ash, you often keep an eye on the stock markets and stuff like this. Was it you that was saying that a number of stocks of American companies associated with defense and military have been going up through the roof?
Well, yeah, if you look at the those companies in America which are related to the defense industry, General Dynamics and who else was there?
Boeing.
I said a few, I've forgotten them all now. I think
it was Boeing as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, there's Northrop and Raytheon. All of these companies their shares have absolutely shot up. So we were saying off air as well that money is always made during war as well. And I didn't know that actually, Paul, what you're saying about the missiles not being given to the Ukrainians. They're actually being sold, are they?
Oh, they're being sold by them. They don't give anything away for free, do they?
I didn't even know that. That's even more. That's awful. See, so that's what I'm saying. It's just so in the bigger picture of things, I'm loath to say it really, to be honest with you. But sometimes you just think to yourself, is that what's the actual underlying interest in this? What war makes money. Let's put it this way.
Oh, incredible. I mean, the thing is, right? If you were a starving man, Ash, and I gave you a load, right? You're not in NATO. I am. You're a starving man, and I gave you a loaf of bread. Theoretically, if you whittle it down, I'm helping you to survive.
Yes.
If I sell you that loaf of bread, I'm not actually helping you. I'm helping myself and keeping up a business. So I'm wondering if that's the caveat for being able to sell weapons, is that you're not giving them, so you're not helping them to defend themselves against Russia, because that would be against the rules.
I know, I agree, and the minute, the more we say that, I mean, isn't that horrible? I mean, or horrible doesn't even cover it. I mean, if you look at, they're just basically it's a war. Do you think it's actually warmongering then?
Oh, there are, as they call them, gods of war, aren't they?
Yeah.
There was a fantastic film that was, just going slightly off the beaten track, that was portrayed by Nicolas Cage.
Yeah.
The God of War, true story.
Yeah.
And they are more or less untouchable, these people who sell arms. Because they're good for government, they're good for economies. And like we've said before, war is an expensive, but it's also a money-making business. Just going away slightly from the Ukraine, I won't say who this particular UK insurance company is, but do you remember before, many years ago, we had I think it was just after the Cold War, we had like a demilitarization of lots of army things. So tanks were sold off, jeeps were sold off. And what happened is there was a company that actually sold off a bulk. Now, when I say a bulk amount, I don't mean like 100. I mean thousands of the green camouflaged army uniforms. Now, this is intuitive behavior, and this is knowing what's happening. There is a certain UK insurance company that bought all those uniforms, dyed them khaki. Next thing we get is the Iraq War. And they were used they sold them to the military. Now, I think somebody knows way before it actually comes out into the media, into the public, that war is going to, because to actually invest in redundant green camouflaged army jackets, have them dyed, and be able to sell back to the army because they're going into battle in Kuwait and Iraq, there's more than just luck on that one. But that's
there's definite cause and effect there. Paul.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. You know, it's and you go back to the horrific 9/11. The Taliban, and in particular the do you know, because he's dead and I don't have a fan club. I forget his name. Bin Laden. They made a tremendous amount of money on that day, and a tremendous amount of money because they invested in certain stock. The Taliban. So they started investing before the actual plane.
Yeah, they shorted the shares, didn't they? They said there was that,
and they made millions of dollars in that incident, and it's all money. It's all money led. It really, if we had no money and no means, there wouldn't be any war. We go back to shields and sticks. It's crazy, and this is why I feel for Ukraine in a way that a lot of other countries I wouldn't feel for, because you know they have a limited amount in the coffers. To protect themselves, they have to buy arms from another country to help, and it's just like, why can't we just go in and I don't know, because of the treaty we can't, but I think war is nowadays pretty fruitless.
Well, it is. I mean, one of the things that Putin wanted was a guarantee that Ukraine would stay neutral and would not be part of NATO. And I think NATO didn't really was that bothered about Ukraine joining anyway. To be honest, it was quite a low priority thing. And I think one of the easiest things probably would have been to do, say, yeah, well, do you know what? Ukraine won't be part of NATO, can join the EEC, but we've got no intention of letting them join NATO. It might have just diffused everything. But from what we're all saying now, it's just, I don't know. It just seems like, do you think it might have been in some people, some companies, some corporations' interest for a war to be stoked? I don't know.
I would get that if it was the West who had made the first movement, you know, like how America invaded Iraq, you know, on the assumption that there were weapons of mass destruction. The fact is, the first move has been made by Putin, and at the moment, the West is paralyzed, almost for good reason. Well, it is for good reason, but almost thankfully, because I think as soon as a NATO boat sets foot in Ukraine, it gives Putin justification for saying what they're wanting to do is bring down Russia. And so this, for me, this is a waiting game, and any change that's going to come is going to have to come from within Russia. It's going to have to be ordinary, decent, powerful Russian people who are going to have to decide this isn't good for our livelihoods. We are more of a Western culture, a Western economy, if you like, than where Putin wants us to be. This isn't good for us, and therefore we have to put an end to this. And it's going to need to be some form of regime change within Russia, you know, and. But that's a waiting game, and goodness knows how many more people will end up dying in Ukraine, or whether Ukraine will have anything left at the rate he's going. You know.
Well, and then the other side of the coin there as well, Rod, is the fact that let's look at the end game. Well, how could this possibly end? Let's just say, I don't know, you know, Ukraine, the eastern Ukraine is annexed in the way that Crimea is, and it's a buffer zone. Let's just say that happens, and then what is Russia left with after that? What was the cost of getting that? Yeah. So you've got a country, Russia, which has been absolutely financially isolated in every single way possible. Every type of capital inflow will have been stopped. All the major companies in the world have stopped dealing with Russia now. Russia isn't China. Russia's economy, they're saying, I think, is equivalent to Texas. That's the perspective here. So it is no China, Russia. So what I'm saying is, even once this war ends and let's just say that he does get his eastern Ukraine provinces, okay, the Donbass region, let's say he gets all that. What was the cost of that? they're virtually in the Stone Age back again now, aren't they? The only thing they've got is they can pipe oil and gas to the rest of the world. Whoopie-doo. What about the rest of the inflows?
And here's the thing: we need. I mean, the bit that frustrates me still is that the UK, but not only the UK, most of the European countries have allowed themselves to become so dependent on one or two nations, where it's opened the door, and we should have had other power supply opportunities, or fuel supplies. I don't actually understand why America isn't supporting Europe more to basically take away our dependency on Russia for oil and gas. I mean, I think our dependency in the UK is 4% or something like that. It's quite small compared to the likes of Germany and France, but still, I can't help but think that if you're a company like Apple, you will always strategically review what your weaknesses are and what your opportunities are, and you'll always have a diversification or a backup plan. And you hope to goodness you never have to use these things, but sometimes there'll be scenarios that come into play. Europe has never done that as a collective block, and
I think the thing about Russia as a market for things like for Western products like Apple and tech and that sort of thing, it's not massive. So it's not a massive thing for these American companies for like Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Apple, Netflix to stop streaming their programs to Russia. It's not really going to affect them too much. It's the other way around. It's us weaning ourselves off Russian energy. Exactly. That's the issue here. That's the problem. And then Russia has just said, I mean, I've always wondered, why hasn't Russia turned the tap off anyway at the moment? Why is it still providing oil and gas to Germany? And I guess at the end of the day, it gets billions of pounds each day, doesn't it, from that?
I just think that the Russians are historically and are forever upholding my thoughts that they are just bullies, spoilt bullies who want everything for nothing with this big iron fist that I'm going to get political here. They have stamped and kicked and spat on the Ukrainians for many, many, many years. And finally, the Ukraine have, a number of years ago, fought back, taken back the Ukraine, and it should have been left at that. But this bullying attitude, in the 1930s, this, you see, we hear about the Holocaust in Germany and how bad that was for the Jews. The Ukrainians suffered an horrific Holocaust at the hands of Russia in the 30s. 3.2 million people were killed through genocide or starvation. And do you know the reason, gentlemen, that Russia decided to do this to the Ukraine? Because they wouldn't let them grow wheat. They wanted wheat from their own country. So they took away the rights to grow wheat. Anybody found with wheat or growing wheat was shot or imprisoned. Something like 24,000 people per day were dying of starvation in the Ukraine because Russia had all the wheat, wouldn't give it to it. They are big bullies. And it's time the world sort of stood up. We live in fear of Putin, don't we? We live in fear of Russia. Oh my God, they're going to start a nuclear war. Do you know what? Let's just annihilate Russia and get rid of the threat. Jesus Christ, there's too many nice countries in this world all trying to get on. So Ukraine wanted to be a part of NATO. They didn't say, yes, we want to be part of NATO so we can go and blast Russia, because they know the limitations. They wouldn't be able to take that was a stupid excuse by Putin. Oh, you're going to put missiles right on our border. They're never going to take on Russia with what they get. Don't be a stupid man. In fact, look at it this way. You might have actually started being able to trade with the Ukraine on a level footing. That might have happened. Do you ever think of that, Putin? They are just incredible, historical bullies, and that's all they are. And that for some reason, the rest of the world cowers down to these threats from, apart from Gorbachev, who I thought was a pretty decent chap. Have they ever had anybody of sane mind in the Kremlin? Look at Stalin, nutter. They're absolutely crazy. They're going about, oh, killing the Jews was terrible, blah, blah, blah. This is how stupid they are, Mr. Putin. You go and call the Ukraine a Nazi country, and the leader's a Jew, you stupid man. I hope this goes out to Russia because you're stupid, Mr. Putin. Just saying.
Well,
I've had my little rants now.
Well, I actually think that you can't control all aspects of the media. You can't control the internet totally. You can turn it off, but people can get around it. And I do believe that it's for the people of Russia to defeat this, because it's down to them now, and it's how they want their country to be perceived on the international stage. It's the opportunities they want for their own children. Never mind these real big oligarchs who've got far too much money anyway. But it's really down to what sort of country do they want their country to be in the world. And
But you know that you've seen already, Rod, what happens if you get dissent. You get carted away. They're frog marching 90-year-old ladies, basically. It's horrendous.
It is.
They're holding placards. And these people, they've got more courage in their little finger than these idiots, because they actually were in the war. They know what hardship was, fighting against, real fascists, basically, not the pretend ones that they're making up in Ukraine. And it's really, really hard for the population to change the regime. I mean, they were saying that Putin had elections, free elections last year, or whenever it was. How free was it?
He changed the constitution, didn't he, so he could go back into power?
We were saying off air before, weren't we, just before you came and joined us, Ash, that we need to get this on the world stage and give them some sort of I was going to say diplomacy, but they haven't got that. We need a Tiananmen Square type of approach in Russia, where the civilians do have enough of it. They're not frog marched off to some dark, distant dungeon never to be seen again, but they get together en masse and approach the Kremlin en masse. Because, like you say, the world, before all this, the world was opening their arms to the Russian young of today. The young scientists, the young gymnasts, the young football players, the young entrepreneur, everything from the young side were being that'll be great for our country. Now Putin in one fell swoop has stopped all their hopes and dreams, ambitions, and possibly the future, because this will set back Russia more than just they will be set back years with this kind of behavior.
This is what I was saying. What did they gain out of it? What have they gained? I mean, even if they do manage to get
it's just power. It's power of a madman. He's a bully. That's all it is. The power of, what bullies are like in the playground. They go, hey, you've never picked on me, but I'm going to smack you because I'm a bully. And that's the way I operate. That's all they do in Russia. Idiots. They need to bring Gorbachev back to life and stick him back in there, because he was a decent bloke. He ended the Cold War with Margaret Thatcher. He got on with the rest of Europe. He might have had his failings, but
I think the big failing here is, do you not think is our government embracing the Russian oligarchs as well? You look at the party donations by Russian oligarchs and rich Russian benefactors as well, and embracing them, accepting them, to take over Premier League teams, to take over companies in this country. And what did we expect? At the end of the day, we were happy to accept their money, but then turn the other way, like you just said there, Paul, ignoring what they actually did as a bullying country.
See, I did think the other day, I did think the other day whether this has been a long-term campaign, the Europe becoming reliant on Russia for its fuel, for example. Whatever was there? Am I making this up, or was there an accusation that during the Brexit campaign there was influence from Russia around some of the messaging and stuff like that. Have I made that up, or was there something?
No,
else?
it's probably right. And there was also the scandal of the Trump elects, wasn't there?
Yeah,
There
exactly. There was.
was fiddling with the Russian by the Russians with the votes and stuff like that.
So if you look at it, he's been possibly trying to. They've been possibly trying to disrupt the world order a little bit, disrupt Europe a little bit, disrupt America a little bit. I mean, if Trump had got into power right now and him being so friendly with Putin, where would the Americans be on this topic?
That is an absolutely great question.
What do you think?
Well, I actually believe Trump would have found a reason not to go up against Putin. I honestly believe he would have found a way of getting out of it so America wouldn't be on board with any sort of position against Russia. I really do. And I think, in some ways, I think there's been some sort of campaign going on for a long, long time on this to destabilize the Western alliance, if you want to call it. It sounds like Star Wars, but you know what I mean? Just disrupt a few things, make them reliant on your oil, gas utilities so that you can turn their taps off, get into their electoral systems and sway. What's Brexit done? It's disrupted Europe a little bit. It's put Britain out on a limb. We can't be as dependent on the EU. We're not really getting anything from America. We are an island floating around without an anchor, and that compromises us, wholly compromises us. So it feels to me like there has been an ongoing campaign here, and it's like a game of chess, really. Only we're not quite sure who's playing it, and I still do believe the only outcome for this will be that the establishment in Russia, which seems to be these oligarchs, find a way of saying this is not the Russia we want, this is not the world we want, this is restricting our freedoms. He's got to go, and there is some form of regime change within Russia, because other than that, I fear any other state getting involved, going in against Russia, they'll just find justification for taking us off the planet.
I mean, the things like the banks and the financial institutions, as much as they've done the right thing in the public eyes, we're seizing funds, they will be hurting, because when an oligarch or whatever puts, let's say, $1 billion into a bank, they don't put it in a cupboard and say, come and get it when you need it. That is invested, and it helps the bank grow. So growth, I would imagine, because of the massive amount of money that go into them, is going to be stunted because they're not getting that weekly, monthly influx of the Russian route or whatever it is. So yeah, they've done the right thing by saying, but I bet the managers are going, Jesus Christ, this is not good.
Well, I mean, I actually do come back to this is an aftershock of COVID. This is almost like somebody thinking the world went into a shock. It went into almost a paralysis state, and now there's an opportunity to go in and get some strategic advantages. I actually think this is just the first of a series of these things. We'll be up against campaigns and stuff like this for a while, unfortunately. I really do. And how this one ends will be the blueprint for how others get dealt with, or even maybe stops other states from going rogue and trying to do something similar.
But I mean, the big problem here, I mean, I think we alluded to it last week off air. We're talking about China wanting to go into Taiwan. So this is going to be like a blueprint to see how far the West's appetite is for financial sanctions, and you can see there are quite a lot. But if China did anything, I mean, I tell you, China is not Russia. China is a mega power. It's right up there, financially speaking, in terms of everything, absolutely everything. We're talking trillions in
It-
sovereign funds.
it-
So, if there's not much we will be able to do in terms of staff. I mean, you look at what's happening anyway. You look at what China's doing. I'm probably going to get bumped off now, but if you're looking at the Uyghur Muslims in China, and if you look at what's happening in the other things there, the dissidents, very similar to in Russia. If you dare to say anything about it, about COVID or anything like that, you mysteriously disappear. And that poor tennis player who said she was accosted by a Chinese leader, and then mysteriously she disappeared and then retracted everything. So what I'm saying is, China, we know already is in terms of human rights and its dubious ethics, we can't do anything about it as much as we would like to do. But we'll have a lot of hand wringing when it invades Taiwan, when it will happen. But what can you do?
The only difference, though, I would say, Ash, is that strategically, I think Russia has a slightly bigger stranglehold over us, only because we're dependent upon them for energy, or at least Europe is. In China, you stop buying some stuff from Amazon, and their factories will suddenly stop. But
that's just it. The manufacturing base in China is massive.
We
wouldn't be able to operate.
Well, yeah, but my point is that there are certain things you can get by without in life. You can't get by without energy, and therefore I think while we are far too, I would like to see the UK. I've said this post-COVID, and I've said this numerous times. I like to see the UK do a strategic review of who we're dependent on and what we're dependent on them for, and actually diversify a little bit, because I think we've got in bed with too many. It's like a company that has one major supplier for their raw ingredient, right? It's like Apple having one supplier for their chips, and that chip company's deciding, you know what, I'm not getting enough money. You're making these things and they're costing thousands, and you're giving me pennies for my chips. I'm stopping making them, and they're held hostage. We're seeing that across the world in so many different areas, and I just would like to see the West, even just the UK, take a look and say, look, can we be dependent really on Europe for this? Can we be dependent on the US for that? How dependent are we on Russia, China, etc.? Because we've got to diversify a little bit here. We're sitting duck anyway. And that's before we talk about how do we make some money, and the West, I think, has allowed themselves to become too dependent on Russia, which is, it had the appearance of being a very stable economy, a stable state, but actually, if one that's almost a totalitarian state, it's not that stable.
No,
I wouldn't. Do you know? I didn't notice Brexit, and this could be down to the fact that we immediately bounced into COVID. But I think what Britain should have done in the Brexit scenario is said, right, like you just said, here are our strengths going forward. If we're to survive as an island, these are our strengths. What do we need, to build up those strengths? Who needs those strengths? And what do we need that we're not quite strong enough? There should have been a clear outline, not battling over some piece of cod in the bloody Atlantic Ocean. I know that's don't get me wrong, I know that's a big issue, but you're 3 feet into our part of the sea. Well, naturally, no, because the wind blew me, but proper, it frustrates, the UK frustrates me. We have North Sea gas, one of the biggest suppliers of gas, the biggest wells, if you like, of gas, and we can't store it in the UK because we haven't got a plant that can store that gas. Hence, it goes off to France, who sell it as back. How messed up is that? That's ridiculous.
It's if you're an organization, a business, you do strategic reviews every so often. You look at your risks, your issues, your strengths, your opportunities, right? And you don't tell me that the dependence, this is across Europe, on Russia for energy wasn't a major risk, and I like to think all the way through COVID that not every government, I've said this numerous times in this podcast, not every government department was busy dealing with the health crisis that we had, and I would like to have thought that they would have been planning for a time in Brexit where we understand what our supply chains are like, where are the points of weakness, if you like. And let's face it, it's not just raw materials and physical supply. Our economic markets are under attack now from Europe as well. They're moving those out. So we've got to be really careful. And this is proven to me more that we really have to have some plan Bs, some plan Cs and plan Ds as a
We haven't even got a plan A.
No, we don't.
What they should have done is like I think I've said on the podcast before, and I know I've said it numerous times. As soon as COVID hit, they should have been saying Brexit is on the back burner because we can't deal with Brexit and really move forward in that because we've got a pandemic going on. But they tried to do the two. Okay, they try and do the two and carry on. But like you say, they should have had. Well, we had a Brexit committee, didn't they? But you never heard from them. Only when they broke up and said, yeah, that's us done. They should have had a proper, well-informed, in touch with the public, Brexit committee. And like you say, all these government departments who suddenly couldn't work because of COVID in what they were doing, they could have all got together by Zoom and had a proper meeting to say to the public, yes, COVID, because the government's dealing with COVID, massive pandemic, understandably. The second arm of the government could be saying, right, ladies and gentlemen, here's our strength. This you asked for Brexit. This is what we're going to gain. This is what we're going to lose. This is our strengths. This is how we're going to move forward. This is how we'll make money. Here's plan B in case all that goes wrong. Oh, and if Russia decides it's going to invade the Ukraine, don't worry. We won't rely on their gas and energy because we've got this plan. We've got nothing. We're like fish out of water again. And it's like we said the other day, in all these countries, China gets Hong Kong, Spain gets the beautiful Lanzarote in the Canary Islands, we get the Falklands. What's that about? Bloody hell.
Oh,
How many times have you booked a trip to the Falklands? You've never done it.
It feels like we're in the English Channel. As a country, we're in the English Channel in a rowing boat because the engine's broken down and you've got all these other nations going around us in speedboats and oil tankers and whatever. We just feel like a sitting duck. And the thing that we used to be quite decent at, diplomacy and etc. It feels like we're no longer relevant in that way too. But
well,
anyway.
I think and then to compound it all, absolutely compound it all, we've got a prime minister who's an absolute utter complete buffoon, who's absolutely got no idea of what's going on. He winged COVID. He winged the Brexit thing, and now God knows what he's doing now. I mean, when you see him during any negotiations or when he's at the lectern giving a talk or anything like that, no one takes him seriously. No one takes him seriously.
Because he shops at Primark.
He looks like a cross between Mr. Blobby and Mr. Bean.
Yeah,
he looks like an intruder who stepped onto the stage, a bit like that time when the taxi driver turned up at the BBC to pick somebody up and ended up getting interviewed because they thought he was an economic specialist.
That's right. Yeah.
Well,
at least that guy made sense.
Well, the problem about it is that there is perception and visual representation. Yeah. And somebody like Macron comes across in a controlled way. He looks like a statesperson, right? Yeah. Mr. Bloody Blobby comes across and he looks like a mad university professor who's just woken up from his digs, having lay with a bottle of whiskey on his couch and then's got to teach a class, and he's just bluffing it. And this is representing our country. And
you see, that might be down with the kids in the UK. People might like that style, but you look at our past leaders of very, right from Winston Churchill up to Neil Kinnock to Margaret Thatcher, Theresa May, even Cameron, pristine. They turned out pristine and looked the part. He's just like got out of bed in his suit that he's had since he was a kid.
I mean, to be honest, we sell better secondhand suits in the charity shops than what he's turning up looking like. it really maddens me. And the problem is this era of social media, the internet, etc. It isn't just what you say; it's how you come across. It's the way that the authority that you visualize, if you like, and he doesn't do that. And
look at Biden. I know he's quite an old chap and everything, but he, like you just said there, Paul, he looks immaculate.
Yeah,
absolutely immaculate.
Yeah.
And
they do. Yeah, and you know what? You can get away with dressing like a drunk if you can command that authority by what you say.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, he can't, so he just looks a buffoon. That's all it is.
And do you know what it's basically? It's those people that you mentioned before. What you need, definitely, you need a serious man for serious times, and we haven't got it.
We haven't got it. And actually, I think we've talked about this before, but I think our political system is broken, because I'm not sure there are many people in Parliament that could actually do that job. I don't actually think the leader of the so-called opposition would be much better, Starmer. I don't think we have somebody who has that. What would you call
it? Even the cabinet, Rod. You mentioned it before, weeks and months before, about our cabinet. Who in there inspires confidence about anything? The health minister, Liz Truss. It's nobody.
I'll tell you who I would vote for as Prime Minister. And I'm not a Labour support. Andy Burnham. I think Andy Burnham would do the job.
Yes.
Because he's down to
he's a serious man, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. He doesn't take crap from central government. He really doesn't.
And if he's wrong, he'll admit it. He'll hold his hand up and goes, guys, I got that wrong. Sorry.
Yeah. I think he'd do well.
I think I've said this before in this podcast. I'm not an Andy Burnham fan by any means. I'm not necessarily a Labour supporter, but I'm certainly not a Conservative supporter at the moment either. But of all the people, I think that Andy Burnham's come into Manchester as a Scouser, and he's represented us well. And he showed a bit of kudos and a little bit of, diplomacy as well, and a business sense, a bit of nice, but he presents himself well. He comes across, and therefore he presents this area, this region well. And at the moment, I'm afraid, I hate to say this, because I really can't be bothered, attacking an individual. And I specifically don't like to be attacking a prime minister of our country. But what we've got at the moment is shambolic. It's dismal. We got it through the back door because of a negative campaign to exit Europe, and we're paying for it. And I didn't agree with everything Europe did. Don't get me wrong, but the way in which we've ended up with this government, because of a negative campaign, we're paying for it.
It's a mishmash. It's a mishmash of the government. It started off by Cameron spitting out his dummy and going, "You voted for us out. I'm leaving."
Yeah, so, he showed no bottle either,
No,
but anyway, it's all good, isn't it? Flip me, you could make it up. It's like something out of a Bond movie.
And I'm just going to put in happy Women's International Women's Day to all the lovely ladies out there.
Well, do you know? Here's the thing. I would say is maybe that's the secret to this is we need more women as leaders, because maybe we would be in less trouble.
I think you could be right. Right.
Somebody was going on about that in the gym this morning. They're saying that there's not enough women in the major companies in America and in the FTSE 100. And he said, had they been more women in there, possibly you've been steered in a different way. So you have to ask yourself then, taking this further, do you think Theresa May would have been any different?
Theresa May couldn't handle all the backstabbing and the bickering and the scheming. That's what she said.
Yeah. And she didn't have the thing you need as any leader of a company, a country. You need to have an inner circle that's loyal to you. And she didn't secure that inner circle. They weren't loyal to her.
And that's what Boris has got, hasn't it? It appears at the moment, anyway.
For now.
Sycophants.
For now.
Yeah.
Wait till I return to the UK. Then they'll get a prime minister. Way.
I'll vote for you.
Thanks. There's one vote.
I'll vote for you too. Then go on, sure.
Oh,
you
thanks.
can't do anything worse than what's going on at the moment. Anyway,
No, exactly.
on that, you've heard it first. Our first president of the United Kingdom, Mr. Paul Davies. Yeah, so he wants to add poet, podcaster, president. There you go.
I love it.
Prime Minister, bit of alliteration there. Yeah.
You heard it first here. Well, look, guys, we've solved the word problems. I've got a phone call. I better go. I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye bye.
See you later.
Take care.